Hey everyone, it's Froggy and I'm back again with another episode of Will a Wonderful World. I'm wondering if we could somehow have, fixed him so this guy didn't exist, but...
Porque siempre me pasa esto.
Carlos! Hooray! We're getting more for Carlos! Wait, did we screw up his route somehow? No, we haven't. Okay. I know he went back home, though. Concrete death. Oh, I don't like that. Days spent in prison could be boring. At noon, while the sun was right in the middle of the sky, Jin and Kyung got into an argument with each other in the yard yet again. In a couple of minutes, they would start a brawl, and everyone else in the yard, inmates and guards alike, would become spectators. It had turned into a daily routine. I sat under a tree, far away from the ruckus. I wore my hat low and put my hands in my pockets, hoping to hide my nervousness from the guards and other curious inmates. I had been in prison for almost half a month. At first, I thought that I might have been arrested for wandering the streets in women's clothing. It was a strange reason to be arrested in Hong Kong, but I simply couldn't think of any other possibilities. Never would I have ever imagined that another possibility could exist. They finally told me that I had been arrested for murder. This was beyond ridiculous. In the 10 Commandments of the Catholic Church, the 5th commandment, thou shalt not kill. How could I possibly have committed murder? And the person that they accused me of killing, I had never even met him before. Ren used to tell me stories about how gangs would sometimes send some of their own young boys to confess for the crimes of the bosses. But usually they would at least get the story straight first. Why hadn't I heard anything in advance? I tried to send a message outside, hoping to get in touch with Mr. Kwan or any of the other people in the group, but I hadn't heard anything back. Just when I was starting to lose hope, an unexpected visitor came to see me. It was so brave and nice of Yi to visit. She was wearing a light green cheongsam, even more beautiful than the one that I remembered. Her hair hadn't all grown back yet, but she still looked good. Yi told me that after I saved her from the auction house, she had been worried about me. She had even sent someone from the Blood Gang back to Pitt Street 99 to ask about me. They found out that I had never been back there ever since. Coincidentally, the man Yi had sent ran into Ren. Ren had been worried about me too, and he also happened to know Yi's man. So Ren went with him to the Blood Gang and told Yi everything he knew. I was arrested by the police on the same day that I helped Yi escape. Mr. Kwan heard from the auction house about what I had done. He was outraged, but before he sent people to come after me, he got a phone call from the secretary of Mr. Lin. In the phone call, he was told that it had been arranged for me to stay in prison. From then on, whatever happened to me should not concern group loyalty anymore. Mr. Kwan and the others didn't know for sure how I had offended the bosses so much. Based on the instructions they heard, they suspected that I wouldn't have much longer to live. Ren gave Yi all of my personal belongings that I had left with the group, hoping that she could bring them to me when she had visited. Yi's fingers accidentally touched my phone when she was showing me the things. It lit up. A woman with curly red hair appeared on my screen. One of the Blood Gang members with us immediately recognized her. What? Do you know my sister? I couldn't contain my excitement and jumped up from the chair. Stay quiet. The guard behind me stepped forward and pushed me back down. Yi unlocked her own phone and turned the screen towards me after a few clicks. I saw a list of people with some without a name but only a photo, followed by a string of digits. I read through the list one by one and stopped at the 5th person. She looked so much like my big sis, but her name was labeled Dragon. Huh, that was quite a coincidence. Your sister last contacted you from Hong Kong, right? Well, she has never left. She is now one of the top assassins in the field. There's an $8 million bounty on her head. Dragon is her codename. Jin and Kyang finally started fighting. Cheers erupted around them. All of the other inmates and guards were gathering around them. I snuck into the storage room at the corner of the yard while no one was watching. I had long noticed this one locker inside the storage room. It was full of random things that had not been claimed in a long time. I opened the locker with one hand and pulled my other hand out of my pocket. I had been holding some tools in my palm, which was completely wet as I had been sweating nervously the whole time. The tools had been brought in by Yi. She had hidden them inside of the toiletries that she gave me. She told me to use these tools to break out of the prison. Yi also said that my being arranged into going into prison probably had something to do with my sister. Someone might be using me as leverage to blackmail Alicia. Or it could be a revenge on her by punishing me. Whatever the case was, I needed to get out of here as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the Black Dragon gang was in control of this prison, so Yi and the Blood Gang couldn't just break me out of here. Therefore, I had to do that part by myself. Once I was out, the Blood Gang would assist me in any way they could. So, a prison break. Was I capable of something like that? Never mind whether or not the guards would catch me if I tried. My cellmates alone would probably ruin the whole thing before I even started. Nevertheless, I decided to hide the tools well in advance. Even if somebody discovered them here, they wouldn't be able to trace them back to me. As for my sister, I needed more time to think about this new information. Maybe I could find out more while I was still inside. I was just about to close the locker when I heard slow footsteps and wheels rubbing against the ground outside. They were getting closer and closer to the storage room. Crap, please don't be the guards! I hastily hid inside the locker and closed it. I could still see a little bit of what was going on outside through the door crack. A blonde man in a prison uniform pushed a cart inside and closed the door. Oh my god, seriously? Is Pi here? There were a few bags of concrete in the cart. I had heard that a new prison building was under construction. Lots of inmates were assigned to work on the site. He must be one of them. He started to unload the bags. 1, 2, 3. Another inmate was under the bags. His mouth was gagged and his limbs were tied up. I finally recognized both of them. The blonde one was said to be the infamous serial killer. Everybody called him Pi, and he had been sentenced to life in prison. The other one that Pi had just dragged out of the cart and tossed to the ground was Kai. He was a serial rapist who had been sentenced to 20 years for over 14 assaults. He was lying there barely conscious. It wasn't unusual for inmates to have a go at each other. However, Kai seemed to have been completely knocked out. Our yard time would be over in half an hour. If they stayed in here too long, it might be too hard to sneak out. If Pi found me hiding in the locker, that might be even worse. Pi put on his gloves. I swallowed nervously. He pinned Kai to the ground and choked his neck, until Kai eventually stopped moving completely and opened the locker. He noticed me. Pi grabbed me by the collar and dragged me out of the locker, then chopped me on the neck with his bare hand. Unimaginable pain traveled from my neck to my head, and I could feel my brain being cut off from the rest of my body before I blacked out. When I woke up, I found myself stuffed inside of a bulk bag. Everything below my chest had been submerged in concrete, which had not completely hardened, but the pressure on my chest was making it almost impossible to breathe. To stop me from making any sounds, he had also sealed my lips with a piece of cloth soaked with concrete. I rocked my body as hard as I could and fell to the ground. Then I saw another bag, which had been filled with solid concrete right before my eyes. The weird shape of the bag convinced me that Kai must be inside it. It was late at night. Pi would probably come back early in the morning to finish the job. Then he would throw these 2 bags with our bodies in them into the foundation of the new building and pour some more concrete over both of our concrete coffins. No one would ever know. I had nothing to do with this. I was just here to hide something. How did I end up like this? Carlos. Oh boy. My poor Carlos, you had a very unfortunate run-in with Pi. Been kind and eventually caused moving and opened the locker. Can we just get rid of this one? Okay. Maybe if he opens the locker first, nothing will happen. Pi tied me up and tossed me aside after noticing me. And then I watched Pi perform an unbelievable operation on Kai. He made sure that Kai would never be able to assault anyone ever again. Pi must be a total psycho. He still wasn't done. Pi stuffed the mutilated Kai into a bulk bag and started pouring the concrete he had mixed into the bag. Kai was soon completely covered in concrete. Kai no longer existed in this world. Then Pi grabbed another empty bag and walked towards me. Soon I would no longer exist in this world either. Okay. I made up my mind and came out of the locker. Kai looked surprised when he saw me, but he soon passed out because of the pain. Hey, don't you think that he has suffered enough? He will be 60 by the time he can get out, and he will die alone for sure. I'm certain he will regret what he did in his youth. Killing him now is actually showing him mercy, right? You don't really have to do this. I inched closer to the door as I was speaking. I needed to stay as far away from this lunatic as I could. I didn't really have any sympathy for Kai. I heard that he had even raped some 50-year-old woman. By that count, he might still hurt people even if he was released at 60. Pi seemed to be pondering my words. Who knew the lunatics could think too? When I was only 2 steps away from the door, he spoke. You make a good point. But I still think he should suffer a little more. What he did next paralyzed me. I just stood there completely stunned watching Pi perform an unbelievable operation on Kai. He made sure that Kai would never be able to assault anyone ever again. Kai was eventually sent into the medical office of the prison. Both Pi and I were brought to the warden's office later. I suspected Kai had said something to the guards. However, everyone knew that Pi was a tough character, so neither the inmates nor the guards dared to mess with him. They were all afraid that Pi would one day mysteriously murder them. Therefore, he got out of trouble scot-free. The same thing couldn't be said for me. I was soon transferred to a solitary cell with higher security. Breaking out of prison was looking more and more unlikely. Alright, we got an A at least, so not quite what we wanted. What if we put this ahead? I made up my mind and came out of the locker. I looked at the unconscious Kai, hoping that he was still alive. Hey, don't you think that he has suffered enough? He'll be 60 by the time we can come out. He will die alone for sure. I'm certain he'll regret what he did in his youth. Killing him now is actually showing him mercy, right? Yeah, okay. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. You make a good point. I still think you should suffer a little more. What he did next paralyzed me, so I completely still watched Pi take... There we go. Watching Pi take my brand new dagger out of the locker and use it to cut off Kai's private part. He then rubbed some concrete on his wound. Next, he covered Kai's severed private part with concrete and stuffed it into Kai's hands. Kai was still unconscious the whole time. This was something that a normal person would never witness their whole life. I was in such a state of shock that I completely forgot about escaping. After he was done, Pi asked me what I had been doing in the locker while cleaning up the blood on the floor. I still couldn't move, and I dared not lie to the psycho in front of me. I told him everything. He finished his cleaning, walked up to me, and put one arm around my shoulder. The cloth in his right hand, soaked with Kai's blood, even brushed against my frozen face. A prison break. That sounds like fun. Count me in. Oh god. So now we're working with Pi, really? Oh no. Oh no. Yes, I hear your dinging. Relationship, Pi, cellmate, arrested for murder. Uh-oh. Let's see. Okay, nothing there. Is this going to show up? Doesn't say that he is friends with Carlos at all. My poor baby boy, though. What happened to you, my darling? Ugh. I wish I could have adopted him and given him a loving home. Oh well, what can you do? I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here for today, though. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos from me, then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.